Alexander! Emily shouted again, but was immediately blocked by security. Miss, not allowed here. Wait, I need to talk to him. Alexander looked at Emily, head tilted, as if checking if his memory was right. And when he fully recognized Emily's face, he raised his hand as a signal to his staff. Bring her to the parking lot, ordered Alexander. In a corner of the underground parking, Alexander and Emily were walking. No other sound but the click of their steps and the soft hum of the building's air conditioning system. The place was cold, but colder was Alexander's treatment. What do you need? Money, he asked. Straight and no beating around. Emily couldn't speak immediately. She bowed. She didn't know where to start. She heard her heart beat fast, tight, as if her chest was wrapped in nervousness. Come on, coldly said Alexander. Don't waste my time. Emily sighed and finally said softly, I'm pregnant. Alexander's body stiffened. The silence around grew heavy. Neither of them moved, as if the world stopped between their distance. I'm pregnant, repeated Emily, firmer voice. You're the father, but I'm not asking you to take responsibility for me. I know it's embarrassing, but I need money. My mom is in the hospital. She needs surgery. We have no one else to turn to. So I gathered courage to come here. Felt the honesty in every word Emily uttered. Returned to his mind that scene, the dim light of the hotel room, the innocent and scared expression of the woman, and the sin that, even if said both were drunk, he couldn't deny he was at fault. He turned away, briefly silent. He took his wallet, opened it, pulled out a check. Here, he said, handing the check to Emily. That's enough for your mom's surgery. If not enough, just say. Emily's eyes widened at what was handed, her hand still shaking. Tearful thanks was her answer. Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. You don't know how much you've helped us. Just don't tell anyone, cold but soft voice from Alexander. This never happened. Emily nodded, and as she walked away, hugging her bag containing the check, she couldn't stop tearing up again, not because of pity for herself, but because of the little light that suddenly appeared in the middle of darkness. A few days passed in the Vanderbilt mansion. A luxurious dinner was happening. The whole family was there, from uncles and aunts to cousins and business partners. Alexander was silent while eating his food, as if not himself, busy in his own world, until suddenly his father turned to him. So, we heard you've been seeing someone, a vendor from a food court, no less. Alexander paused. How did you know? Instead of answering, his father spoke. Do you really think there are no eyes among the company employees? You're a Vanderbilt. Every move you make, we hear about it. We have eyes and ears everywhere. Alexander met their gazes. He didn't explain but felt the tightening around. Emily, just a deal, mentioned one. Seller of French fries. Didn't finish high school. Side job as a dancer because of poverty. Pregnant with the Vanderbilt family heir. Alexander looked at his grandfather, cold gaze. She doesn't want anything to do with me, softly said Alexander. Yet you gave her money, returned his father. She needs it, and we need her. Need her, repeated Alexander. The old William Vanderbilt stood, the oldest and most powerful in the family, slowly spoke while tapping his cane. I have a grandson, Alexander, he said seriously. And even if not in the way we want, our blood still flows in that child. So what you'll do? You'll wait for that woman, and we'll take my grandson. It was like cold water poured on Alexander. He remained seated, stunned, while the whole family continued talking about business, estate planning, and expansion of Vanderbilt International in Southeast Asia. But for Alexander, a new battlefield was preparing in front of him, a war between his heart and what his family would order, who never fully accepted him. The elevator sound was brief in the silence, while the door slowly opened to the highest floor of one of the most expensive condominiums in the city. It was like a world greeted Emily when she stepped out. It was vast, clean, and full of expensive things. With every step on the marble floor, she heard the sound of her own shoes, as if reminding how different she was from that place. She was in Alexander's penthouse. She still couldn't believe it. Just a few days ago, she was on the hospital bench hugging Olivia, crying in worry about how they'd find money for Margaret's surgery. And now, here she was, allowed into a world she never even dreamed of because she knew it wasn't for her. She didn't know what she should feel. No one told her the exact reason why she was brought there. Just that a person came to their house, well-dressed, bringing a letter too good to refuse. "Miss Thompson, Mr. Vanderbilt said you can use the whole penthouse for the safety of your pregnancy," said the man sent by Alexander. "From now on, there are assigned staff to take care of you. Free all medicine, food, and what you need." Included in coming to the penthouse was handing a brown envelope with a large amount of money. Emily gasped when she opened it. It was enough to cover Margaret's treatment. And true enough, after just 2 days, her mother's surgery was scheduled immediately. But that wasn't the end of the problem. When she talked to Alexander one night on the phone, that's when she learned the real condition, not just to help her. She needed to stay in the penthouse, away from street noise, away from poverty stress, away from anything that could harm her pregnancy. She needed to carry that child properly. And after giving birth, she'd wait for payment. "For your child," cold voice from Alexander on the call. "And for my child, too." Emily swallowed. She wasn't forced, but the message was clear: this was the way to help her mother. This was the only path so their family's hope wouldn't be completely cut. So, despite all doubts and nervousness, she agreed. The penthouse was palace-like, with its own entertainment room, large kitchen, a library full of old hardbound books, and a balcony overlooking the whole city. Assigned to Emily was one of the rooms near the pantry with its own bathroom. There was also a housekeeper introduced as Lucy, middle-aged, quiet, and a bit old. "I'll take care of you while you're here," softly said Lucy on the first night. "If you need anything, just call me." But not in all moments was staying there easy. Every day, the penthouse's silence reminded her that she didn't belong in that world. Lucy, though kind, had times when she showed she knew Emily wasn't truly part of the Vanderbilt life. "You know, miss, sometimes," said Lucy while fixing the bed, "you're lucky, too. Many women dream of entering here, but don't forget why you're here." "Ah, I know," soft reply from Emily. Not in blood being part of this family, just wealth. Every time she thought of such words, she reminded herself she was doing this for Margaret, for Olivia, and more than that, for the child growing in her womb. She had no right to be weak. As days passed, she got used to her new routine. Every morning, Lucy prepared a nutritious breakfast. She'd walk around the penthouse, sometimes go out to the balcony to feel the breeze of the wind. There were regular checkups coming to the unit. An old obstetrician who seemed uncomfortable with the arrangement entered. "I don't care about the personal issues of the rich," sometimes said the doctor, while adjusting the stethoscope. "Just make sure to take your vitamins and avoid stress. That's what's important now." Rarely visitors, and if any came, it was only Alexander, and not often. Alexander, when arriving, brought groceries, medicine, and sometimes baby toys. Quiet, he didn't stay long. No interaction, but formal talk. "Thank you," Emily always said when he left, but just a nod or simple, "okay," from Alexander. Sometimes she couldn't help but ask herself if she really had value in that man's eyes, or if she was just a box in the list of problems the Vanderbilt family needed to finish. Despite Alexander's coldness, she didn't resent him. She knew he wasn't obligated to her. All this was brought by an event both didn't expect. They didn't want, didn't force. But even so, there were moments in the middle of the night silence. While hugging her stomach, she couldn't stop asking herself, what if her life took a different path? What now if she wasn't a simple vendor? What if they met each other in another way? One night, while she sat by the window watching the streetlights below, suddenly crossed her mind what Alexander's grandfather said, that they'd take the child from her. Not yet giving birth, she felt there was a part in her heart gradually forming for the being in her womb. And she thought, what if she doesn't want to give the child? Does she have the right? Or because she came from a poor family, she had no fight? Tears fell from Emily's eyes. She didn't know where all this would lead. What she knew for sure, with every passing day, she was falling more into the role of a mother. And being a mother couldn't be paid, couldn't be finished with a check, couldn't be forgotten. The sun was hot that day, but Emily felt cold while quietly sitting in the waiting area of the OBGYN clinic. Beside her was Alexander, his eyes quiet, just staring at the cell phone in his palms. No long words came from the young man's mouth since the car picked her up from the penthouse. No one would think the two knew each other, let alone had a connection. Even more, no one would think among the other pregnant women in the clinic that Alexander was the father of the child she carried. Around were other pregnant women with their husbands, one to their right with a man's arm around the pregnant woman's shoulder while together flipping a prenatal guide. To the left, a pregnant woman quietly whispering to her husband, stroking her belly while smiling. Emily looked at them. She couldn't stop smiling sadly. That was what she dreamed of, to have a husband, own home, a simple but complete life. Not luxurious, but full of love. Not like now. The child she carried was the fruit of a night she didn't think would change her whole life. And the father of her child was a man she could hardly talk to. "Miss Thompson, you may come in now," call of the nurse at the ultrasound room door. Emily stood and looked at Alexander. He quietly followed her. No word, no reaction. The only thing she noticed was the soft release of his cell phone and slow walk into the room. The room inside was cold, everything around white. A somewhat aged doctor greeted them and started preparing the machine. "We'll start now." "Okay," she said. "I just need to lift your blouse and roll down your leggings a bit. Are you comfortable?" Emily nodded and lay on the bed. The doctor cooled the ultrasound gel and placed it on her belly. Emily frowned a bit at the cold touch on her skin but quickly stared at the monitor screen. A few seconds, and the image gradually appeared, blurry at first, but later clear. There it was, the small being inside her womb, a life forming in her. While the probe stroked her belly, the monitor sounded a soft sound repeating, thumping heartbeat. "Look, this is the baby's heartbeat," said the doctor. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Emily couldn't hide the fall of her tear. She tightly held the end of her blouse while staring at the monitor, as if not wanting that moment to pass. Suddenly, the doctor spoke. "There he is." Emily was silent and looked at the woman. "Doc, it's a boy." "Oh, sorry. Should it be a surprise? Gender reveal party?" The doctor laughed. Emily shook her head and smiled too. "No, I was just surprised." "Okay, then I'll confirm," said the doctor while adjusting the probe. "You're having a healthy baby boy. Congratulations, Mommy." "Congratulations, Daddy." Emily bowed, trying to hold back tears. She knew the doctor said that as part of protocol, but every word uttered was like an arrow hitting her heart. She wasn't sure what Alexander felt, but she knew for her, it was one of the most important moments of her life. She turned to Alexander, still quiet, but unlike earlier, now staring at the screen. His eyes, that were always cold and indifferent, now full of confusion, a bit of surprise with wonder, as if only now he understood he had a child. "Here's a printout," the doctor said, handing the ultrasound photo to Emily. "Keep this first photo of your child." Emily took it, and for the first time, Alexander kept his gaze on the paper, as if still couldn't believe. They couldn't speak until they left the clinic. While in the car going home, silence still enveloped them. Emily, still holding the ultrasound photo, observing the tiny shape of the child inside. "Thank you," softly said Emily. Alexander didn't answer, but there was a strange cold in the air that seemed to start melting. He didn't answer, but not rejection. When they arrived at the penthouse, Alexander caught Emily in the kitchen while boiling ginger. "What's that for?" asked Alexander. "Ah, I just feel bad, like I have a cold, so I'm boiling this." "Do you want help?" he asked. Emily looked at him. Brief, but enough to feel he was serious. "If you want," added Alexander. "I also want to meet your family, especially your mom. They're the reason you entered all this, aren't they?" Emily smiled, peaceful in heart. For the first time, she felt she wasn't alone, and more than that, she wasn't alone in carrying her child. The days continued in the penthouse, as if a changing breeze from the former cold treatment of Alexander. His actions gradually softened every time with Emily. Not clear what feelings were forming between them, but both felt a strange connection emerging. They talked more often, even about simple things. When Emily had a fever, Alexander bought medicine. When she felt bad, he was there beside. Sometimes, even if not needed, he cooked soup himself. And when night before she slept, Alexander greeted her, "Good night, Emily," as if afraid to destroy the current flow of things. One night, Alexander caught Emily in the kitchen while preparing a drink. He was on the phone from the balcony. The window near the kitchen was slightly open, and from there, the conversation could be heard clearly. The call was on loudspeaker. Emily stopped preparing immediately. "He's almost due," said Alexander. "Good," answered the old woman's voice, perhaps his mother. "The checks are ready." "Fix everything, Alexander. We'll take him once out." Emily clenched her fist. She stopped breathing. Heard Alexander's voice again, a bit of objection. "Mom, it's a baby coming out. He needs his mom. We can't just take and separate him." But firm response from the other line. "Alexander, we don't need the mother. What we need is an heir. That child. Once she gives birth, her role is done. Make her leave the penthouse. Do what's right." "But Alexander," shout from the man on the other line, perhaps his father. "Stop getting attached. Don't be weak. This is bigger than you. This is for the family." No more words from Alexander. And there, Emily's feeling gradually grew cold. Tears fell on her cheek, even if she wasn't crying loudly. While still holding the glass of water, she bowed. That was the truth anyway. That's why she was housed in the penthouse. That's why she was watched, fed, given everything needed, not because she was important, but because they needed something from her. The child. Her child. She had no value, just a vessel that, when no longer useful, could be replaced and forgotten. And more painful, Alexander didn't fight for her. One midnight, Emily woke up because of intense stomach pain. She jolted and clutched the bed edge. She felt like something burst inside her. Her water broke. She almost lost her voice from pain while getting off the bed and calling the helper, but no answer. When she got out of the room, she saw the helper at the end of the hallway, busy talking on the phone, didn't notice her. She sat on the floor, shaking, sweating profusely, and gasping. She shouted again. "Alexander," she shouted, though knowing he wasn't there, but she couldn't hold it anymore. In the penthouse living room, there she started giving birth. The helper caught up, shouted, and called emergency services, but it was too late. The child was there. There he was, crying, wailing in his first breath in the world. Chaos everywhere. In a few minutes, doctors, nurses, and Vanderbilt house staff rushed. The family followed, including Alexander. When they arrived, Emily was lying on the sofa, exhausted, but with a tight hug on her child. "My great-grandson," almost shouted Alexander's grandfather. "I have a grandson, so handsome." "Looks like Alexander," shouted the mother. All of them overjoyed, taking pictures, calling, shouting, but no one approached Emily to check on her, as if she wasn't there. Only Alexander approached and knelt beside her. "How are you?" he asked, slightly trembling. "Okay," answered Emily. But she didn't look at Alexander. She saw from the corner of her eye the envelope handed by the assistant, a white envelope, and inside she knew was the check, the payment, the value of all her suffering in giving birth. The next day, while the baby slept, Alexander visited Emily again in her room. Quietly, he entered and sat at the bed end. "I wanted to say something. Can you not answer?" Emily just turned to him, no emotion on her face. "He won't make you leave, Alexander. I don't know how to say this, but your kid needs you. He needs his mom." But it was too late. "I never had value anyway," coldly said Emily. Alexander had no more answer. And there, she finally decided. The next day, early, Emily called Olivia. Let's meet at the bus terminal. Pack anything. Bring Mom. We're leaving. Olivia was quiet, but in her sister's tone, she knew she was decided. They couldn't stay there anymore. Before the sunset, Emily packed just a little, the child's things, a few pieces of clothes. She left the check. She didn't need it. When night came, she took advantage that Alexander wasn't there. The helper was busy talking on the phone. Slowly, she went out, quiet, while hugging her child. She walked down, called a taxi, and from the penthouse that once became a prison for her, she left far, quiet, no farewell. When Alexander arrived that night, he felt the silence, the strange cold around. No TV sound, no baby cry, no Emily. Where is she? He asked the helper. Oh, I thought she was just in the room. He ran immediately, opened every door, none. Called, no answer. Called Olivia, who was offline. Called the hospital. Called the mother. All the woman escaped, shouted his grandfather on the phone. What kind of guarding? My grandson. Where is he? Alexander didn't answer anymore. He didn't argue. Stunned, he sat in front of the crib, empty now. No baby laughter. No Emily's voice. Gone. And for the first time, he realized with all his wealth and power, he couldn't force a person's heart to stay if he didn't choose it, fought for, and valued while still there. Is it too late? After 6 years, the surroundings were quiet while the cold breeze stroked the leafy trees on the side of a small town in upstate New York. The sun was gradually setting behind the mountains. In a small and simple house made of wood, a young boy was playing in the yard while waiting for his mother's call. Ethan, shouted the voice from inside the house. Come and eat first before we leave. Ethan stopped playing hopscotch and ran inside, clean his white shirt and constant sparkle in his eyes. Ethan was small, 6 years old, but he carried kindness and charm rare in children his age, always smiling, polite, and close to everyone. He loved his mother dearly. Mom, where are we going? He asked while Emily scooped porridge into his bowl. Visit Grandma, child, gentle answer from Emily. Ethan didn't ask more. He knew what Emily meant. They were going to the cemetery, and as usual, every such day, they'd bring flowers, candles, and some food. Though young, Ethan was understanding. He felt the weight of memory every time the late grandma was mentioned. So, he didn't ask more. Instead, he tried to smile and be good for his mom. After eating, Ethan changed into his blue polo and denim shorts. Emily wore a simple white dress with small flowers design. They carried flowers and candles while walking on the narrow road to the cemetery, not far from their house. Emily was silent while observing her worn shoe. She wiped the old grave, arranged the flowers on top, and lit the candles. Ethan carefully placed his drawn card with, I love you, Grandma. Grandma, whispered Ethan. Mom said you were kind. She misses you. Me, too, even if I don't remember you much. I miss you, too. Emily's mouth fell open, trying not to cry. Even 4 years passed since Margaret passed away, it was still fresh in Emily's memory, the nights of worry, long hours in the clinic, and her mother's last moments with them. Margaret's body couldn't handle the complications from her diabetes. Even after surgery, her body didn't respond enough to the medicine. It gave in eventually. Painful to accept, they needed to continue life. Olivia, Emily's younger sibling, returned to New York City, became a scholar and working student too, so as not to be a burden to Emily. In the hardship they went through, Olivia became strong and determined. That night, while Emily was washing dishes, her cell phone rang. It was Olivia on the other line. Sis, cheerful greeting, just graduated and with a medal, too. Emily stopped washing. Is that true? Oh, how great. I wanted, if possible, if you and Ethan can go to New York City for the graduation. No more Mom, sis, you're all I have. I hope you pin the medal on me. Emily bit her lip. She couldn't answer immediately. Sis, repeated Olivia. I want to. Softly, she answered, I'm scared, Olivia, because of them, referring to the Vanderbilt family. Yes, answered Emily without hesitation. I don't want to mess up our quiet life again. I don't know if I can see them again, especially him. Brief silence on the line. Sis, gently replied Olivia. After graduation, we'll go home right away. We won't stay long. I don't want to miss the chance to see me graduate. Just us, sis, just us together. Emily closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Olivia was right. Graduation is once, and more than that, it's the fruit of all their sacrifices and love as siblings. She couldn't miss that moment. Okay, answered Emily. I'll ask for leave at the Capitol. I'll take leave. Olivia squealed in joy on the other line. Emily smiled, even with nervousness in her heart. Ethan, she called after the call. Child, we're going to New York City. Really? Ethan's eyes widened. Wow, will I see trains and big buildings? Yes, child, answered Emily while stroking her child's hair. But just briefly there, okay? Yes, I'm excited already, said Ethan while jumping and repeating the word New York City. Meanwhile, in one of the tallest buildings in New York City, Alexander was busy filling his calendar with meetings, board meetings, and business deals. 6 years passed since Emily and that child disappeared from his life. Since then, he didn't allow himself to show emotion. He accepted all the anger and doubt from his family. He didn't argue anymore, as if he made work a wall so as not to completely collapse from the weight of regret. His days continued under office lights and behind conference room glasses. He didn't look back. He didn't open his heart, as if not looking back at the past. If there was any trace of his old self, it was left behind. 6 years ago, no one knew how many nights he cried secretly. No one noticed the times he suddenly looked at the window and thought, where are they? How is Emily? Does my child look like me? He didn't try to search anymore. For what? Emily left. She chose to go far. Maybe that's deserved. But the question remained hanging in the air, and in a new chapter of their lives, they didn't know that fate, no matter how winding, has its own way of returning hearts that once separated. The afternoon light danced softly inside the mall, giving gold and warmth to the marble floor and glass walls. Emily, Olivia, and Ethan were walking inside a famous mall in New York City. They just came from a simple celebration in a restaurant on the 3rd floor as commemoration of Olivia's college graduation. She was a scholar in a university in the city and now carrying a diploma and honor, undeniable the world's awakening in her eyes and excitement for the future she'd tread. Emily, wearing a simple white blouse and pants, carefully observed by her sibling. Firm in her mind not to tell the whole truth to Olivia yet, even if long wanting to reveal, especially now that her sibling seemed a full woman she long cared for, like a child. Congrats, Olivia, whispered Emily while holding Ethan's hand. This is for Mom. Olivia smiled, squeezed Emily's hand. This is for us, sis, because if not for you, I wouldn't reach this. The siblings laughed while Ethan continued telling whatever things. In too much joy, they didn't notice Ethan gradually disappearing from their side. In the middle of music, noise, and people's cheers, the child's hand completely slipped from Emily's hold. Ethan, asked Emily and looked around. Ethan, repeated with immediate nervousness. Panic and fear started inside Emily. She looked around, her eyes scanning every side. She was shouting already, Ethan, child, where are you? On the other side of the mall, near the entrance to the luxury wing, busy was Alexander Vanderbilt. With him, some project managers and engineers of Vanderbilt International Holdings. They were doing an ocular inspection in the mall, one of those planned to renovate by the company for a new premium wing expansion. In black slacks and open-collar white polo was Alexander, focused on plans but fatigue evident in his eyes. Since Emily left him, his personal life became directionless. Work became just a tool for him, not for success, but just to forget. But one thing he never forgot, the face of the child he never saw, the child he knew existed but didn't know where. His thoughts were cut when suddenly someone bumped into him, a small child, about 6 years old. Oh, sorry, sir, immediately said the child while looking up at him. Alexander looked at the child, dark hair, bright face, and familiar form that couldn't be explained. His eyes, like twins of a pair of eyes he long avoided in memory. I'm lost, softly said the child. What's your name? Asked Alexander, slightly bent to level with the child. Ethan, sir. Alexander frowned. Where did you last see your mom? I don't know, sir. This is my first time here. This mall is so big. Alexander forced a smile and nodded. Okay, I'll help you find her. They walked together in the mall while approaching a corner with a glass window. Ethan looked outside. In front of him appeared a view he didn't expect, the tall and towering condominium building. He raised his hand and pointed it. That's where I was born, he whispered. Alexander froze where he stood, as if poured with cold water. His muscles stiffened. The child's voice was clear, no joke, no hesitation. What did you say? Alexander almost couldn't believe. That's where, up there, the highest. My mom said that's where I was born. Alexander didn't move. His hands grew cold. That penthouse, only a few people knew. And the last woman who lived there was none other than Emily. This couldn't be coincidence. How do you know that room? Soft question, voice shaking. Before Ethan could answer, a woman was running from afar. Ethan, shouted Emily. Ethan turned and sought his mother, followed by Olivia. He ran towards Mom. Emily immediately hugged her child, panting. Child, I thought you were lost. Sorry, Mom. When she looked up, Emily almost grew cold. The man who had been standing beside her child was Alexander. Emily, soft call from Alexander. Emily stepped back. She couldn't believe what she saw. She thought they wouldn't meet again, but here he was, standing in front of her, like that last day she left him 6 years ago. She couldn't speak. Even Olivia stopped beside Emily. Emily, repeated Alexander, slowly approaching. But before he could get closer, Emily closed her eyes and bowed. Ethan, she said, and forced a smile. Come, let's go home. Emily, please wait. No more we need to talk about, Alexander softly answered. Emily, a long time has passed. Let's not mess with ourselves. But before she could fully turn away, Alexander gently asked her, He's mine, Emily. Isn't he? Tears fell again from Emily. She didn't answer, but her silence was enough for Alexander to realize the truth. Ethan was his child. And that afternoon, in the middle of the bustling mall, in front of many people's eyes, a secret long hidden was finally exposed. The sun seemed indifferent to the world's chaos. In a corner, a quiet restaurant, inside a private room surrounded by thick curtains and soft seats, Emily and Alexander faced each other for the first time as two parents with the same responsibility and connection to a child, to Ethan. Emily was quiet while stirring the small teaspoon in the teacup in front of her. The small sounds of the spoon on porcelain were the only music between them. In front of her, Alexander, seriously looking, holding his two palms on the table. He didn't speak for a long time, as if waiting for the right moment to start. Emily, soft start from Alexander, voice shaking. Thank you. Thank you for not completely forgetting me. Emily smiled, but noticeable the sadness in her eyes. I never forgot you, Alexander, but I tried to live without you. I tried to go far because I thought you wouldn't fight for us. Alexander sighed. I was wrong. I delayed. I was afraid to face you again because I know I hurt you. But when I saw Ethan, when I heard what he said, that he was born in my penthouse, Emily, it was like something shouted in my heart. He's mine. Tears fell from Emily, not knowing why, but despite the anger and pain of the past, she felt the sincerity in Alexander's words. I didn't mean it, Alexander. None of this was in the plan. When I learned I was pregnant, I didn't know where to start, but I never regretted Ethan's arrival. He's my life now, so I couldn't give him away. Then Alexander looked at her straight in the eyes. And from now on, I'll be with you, not as a man paying obligation, but as Ethan's father and as a person who loves you. Emily stopped. The feeling long buried was like a bubble gradually floating. She didn't know if she should be happy or scared, as if afraid to destroy the current flow of things. And from now on, formal, said Alexander while gently holding Emily's hand. We're together now. I'll take care of you, Ethan, United States. After leaving the restaurant, it seemed Emily felt lighter. They walked together, and undeniable, there was a strange sparkle in their eyes. On the other hand, Ethan was overjoyed when introduced to Alexander as his father. Really? You're my dad? Asked Ethan, full of innocent joy. Alexander knelt and stared at Ethan. Yes, child, and from now on, I won't leave you. Ethan hugged Alexander, and Emily couldn't hold back the tears of happiness. Finally, they were complete, but not all were happy for the three of them. Inside the largest boardrooms of Vanderbilt International Holdings, loud was the sound of glass slamming on the marble table. The Vanderbilt family members were furious old men and women wearing expensive jewelry and designer suits, all whispering to each other. How could he? Angry shout from the old woman. That woman just fooled him. No wealth, no name, sold her body before, and now will have the child adopted by a family like ours. Huge embarrassment. Looked at her by one of the family advisors. Madam, news is spreading fast. There are reporters wanting interviews. The internet is full of their photos, Alexander with the child and that woman in a restaurant. This can't be ignored. We need damage control, interjected one of Alexander's uncles. And if he doesn't comply, we'll remove him. No more share for Alexander. No part in the company. And that's what they did. I have no part in Vanderbilt International, sad news from Alexander to Emily while they were in a simple park by the river. Ethan was playing at the end of the sidewalk, feeding pigeons. What do you mean? Asked Emily nervously. Meaning they ousted me, removed my name from the company. No more right, but it's okay with me. I don't mind them anymore. What's important to me now is you. Emily looked at him. But Alexander, how will you live? That's your life. Alexander smiled. They thought they controlled me because of wealth. They don't know. I long prepared myself. I have my own assets, business, investments. I have my own life. I can support you, Emily. I don't need their company. Emily couldn't believe, not because of Alexander's wealth, but his strength to fight for her before she had nothing to hold on. Now, here was the man who once hurt her, but now ready to risk everything to prove love. Alexander approached her gently, touched her cheek. I don't care about money. I don't give a damn about what they think. What's important to me? You and Ethan. There, Emily cried, not because of pain, but joy. Finally, a man ready to catch her, not because of obligation, but because of love. Is this true, Alexander? Soft question. You won't leave us. True, Emily. We're together. I promise that. I promise too, answered Emily while stroking Alexander's hand. A few days passed, and as if repeated the scene they long dreamed, their family was complete. Ethan was very happy. The smile couldn't be removed. In the house they live in now, there was laughter, shared breakfast, stories every night before sleep. Dad, can you teach me to bike? Asked Ethan while fixing the old bicycle. Of course, child, answered Alexander, guiding his child's shoulder. Emily smiled while observing the two, and for the first time in a long time, she felt peace in her heart. She didn't know what's next, but for now, what's important, they were complete, and that couldn't be matched by any wealth in the world. No grandeur in the surroundings of the small chapel on the side of a hill in the countryside. No expensive curtains, no grand flowers, and especially no media or journalists. Instead, the surroundings were wrapped in simplicity, with wildflowers tucked into wooden pews and sunlight streaming through modest stained glass windows. The air carried the scent of fresh grass and the soft hum of a nearby stream. Inside the chapel, Emily stood in a simple white dress, not a designer gown but one she'd sewn herself, its delicate lace edges a testament to her quiet determination. Beside her, Alexander, in a plain suit, no tie, his hair slightly tousled by the breeze. His eyes, once cold and distant, now held a warmth that mirrored the golden light around them. Ethan, their son, stood between them, clutching a small bouquet of daisies he'd picked that morning. His grin was wide, his excitement barely contained as he bounced on his toes, whispering, "Mom, Dad, are we a real family now?" Emily knelt, smoothing his hair, and whispered back, "Yes, Ethan. We've always been." The officiant, an elderly pastor with a gentle voice, spoke of love, commitment, and the beauty of second chances. There were no grand vows written by poets, just honest words exchanged between two people who had found each other through chaos and time. Alexander took Emily's hands, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "I promise to be here, Emily, not just for you and Ethan, but with you. I'll choose you every day, no matter what." Emily's eyes glistened as she replied, "And I promise to trust again, to build this with you, for us, for Ethan." "I love you, Alexander." The words felt like a release, a shedding of the weight she'd carried for years. The small crowd, Olivia, a few close friends from their new life in the countryside, and a handful of neighbors, clapped softly as the couple kissed. Ethan cheered louder than anyone, throwing daisies into the air, making everyone laugh. There were no photographers, no flashing cameras, just the quiet joy of a moment that belonged only to them. After the ceremony, they gathered outside for a simple picnic. Wooden tables were covered with checkered cloths, laden with homemade pies, sandwiches, and lemonade. Children ran around, chasing each other through the grass, while Emily and Alexander sat together, his arm around her, watching Ethan play. Olivia, now a confident young woman with a job in the city, raised a glass of lemonade. "To my sister, who never gave up, and to Alexander, who proved love can change everything. To family." The toast rippled through the small group, and for the first time, Emily felt no fear of the future. The Vanderbilt family's shadow no longer loomed over them. Alexander had walked away from their wealth and control, choosing a simpler life funded by his own investments, ones he'd quietly built outside their empire. He'd sold his penthouse, the place where Ethan was born, and used the money to buy a modest home in this small town, a place where they could grow roots, not expectations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Emily leaned into Alexander. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked softly. "The money, the power?" He looked at her, then at Ethan, who was laughing as he tried to catch fireflies. "Not for a second," he said. "This is worth more than anything they could offer." Years later, the small town had become their world. Ethan grew into a bright, kind-hearted boy, excelling in school and known for his sketches of the countryside, a talent Emily nurtured with her own love for art. Alexander opened a small carpentry shop, crafting furniture that locals cherished for its craftsmanship. Emily ran a community bakery, her pies and breads a staple at every town gathering. Olivia visited often, her career as a teacher flourishing, her bond with Emily and Ethan unbreakable. The Vanderbilt family never reached out. The scandal of Alexander's departure faded from the headlines, replaced by new dramas. The world moved on, and so did they. But in quiet moments, when Emily looked at her family, Alexander reading to Ethan by the fireplace, or the three of them planting flowers in their garden, she knew they'd won something greater than wealth. They'd found love, not the kind bought or forced, but the kind that grows through sacrifice, forgiveness, and time. One evening, as they sat on their porch, Ethan, now 10 and sprawled across a swing with a book, he looked up and asked, "Mom, Dad, how did you find each other?" Emily and Alexander exchanged a glance, a silent agreement to keep the story simple for now. "We met by chance," Emily said, smiling. "And we kept choosing each other, even when it was hard." Alexander nodded, pulling her close. "And we'll keep choosing each other, always." Ethan grinned, satisfied, and went back to his book. The stars began to speckle the sky, and in that small, unassuming town, the family they'd built shone brighter than any city skyline ever could.